Welcome. Why do we suffer in this life? Well, sometimes it's the result of the power of wicked people. And sometimes we bring on ourselves our own troubles, perhaps through our evil deeds. And sometimes it's because God is working in our lives, chastising us or correcting us, as a father lovingly corrects his child. For these, and I suppose many other reasons, we have difficulty and pains and troubles in this life. But how should we react to those troubles? That was the question which attracted David's attention in Psalm 39, and it's our subject for today. My name is Keith Simons. I'm a Bible teacher from England. I present these talks, How to Understand the King James Bible using the book of Psalms. Each time we look at a different psalm, verse by verse and word by word, seeking to understand its meaning. So today, Psalm 39, a psalm which has a lot of emphasis on silence in the face of suffering. Its ancient heading is To the Chief Musician, even to Jeduthun, a psalm of David. We often see this introduction where the psalm is addressed to the chief musician, a practical arrangement directing that the psalm was to be handed to the leader of the worship in God's house, the temple. The man mentioned here, Jeduthun, his name appears in 3 of the psalms. He seems to be the leader of one of the choirs of Levites who served in the temple. A psalm of David, showing us that David was the author of this. David didn't just write prayers and declarations of praise to God, but he also studied wisdom, as his son Solomon would later do, and show that wisdom in books including the book of Ecclesiastes. And this psalm has a very strong connection to books like Ecclesiastes and Job, books that are studying wisdom. So let's begin our verse by verse study then with verse 1, where David writes, I said, I will take heed to my ways, that I sin not with my tongue. I will take heed, I will be careful about my ways, about what I do, because I don't want to fall into sin, evil deeds with my tongue by means of the words that I say. So David here was clearly feeling a temptation to say something wrong. What was it about? He continues, the end of verse 1, I will keep my mouth with a bridle while the wicked is before me. The wicked is before me. I see evildoers, and I see them prospering and comfortable in their evil acts. And I am tempted to say something wrong in complaining about them and their evil deeds, and especially about their prosperity when they are evil. Surely if anyone should be prosperous and happy, it should be the people who are good, and the wicked people should be suffering. But it's not what we see so often in this life. And so David says, I'm tempted to sin. I'm tempted to say something wrong about this, to complain in a way that is not right. So I will keep my mouth with a bridle. A bridle is the thing you put around a horse's mouth. David isn't saying literally that he would wear a bridle, but he is saying he's going to be careful to keep his mouth shut, as we say, not to say anything. And he emphasises this even more in verse 2. I was dumb with silence. A dumb person is a person who cannot speak. I held my peace. That's just another way to say I remained silent. I held my peace, even from good, and my sorrow was stirred. Even from good. He didn't want to say even the things that were good and right to say in this situation, because he knew that if he began to speak about this situation, about these evil people, then his emotions were too strong. If he began to speak, he would be tempted to say something that might be very wrong. He knew how much his sorrow was stirred, his emotions stirred deep within him, sadness at this situation, at this terrible situation. But could he keep silent? Could he manage not to speak? Verse 3. My heart was hot within me. While I was musing, the fire burned. So he tried to be silent, but his heart felt as if it was burning. He felt as if there was a fire within him, and there he was trying to keep silent, musing, trying to mutter under his breath. Jesus said at one time, from the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Yes, David's heart, his deep inside his mind, he was full up with words that he had to say. And the fire burned, and eventually David could control himself no longer. The end of verse 3. Then spake I with my tongue. Oh dear, the very thing he'd promised himself he wouldn't do. He promised that he wouldn't speak about this situation, but in the end, he just couldn't control himself. It was too heavy on him. It was burning within him. He felt he had to speak. So he spoke, and he complained about this situation, and he wished that he could have prevented himself from doing so, but no, he spoke. What did he say then? Well, there are two alternatives here, and you can go with the one you want. It's clear that he spoke a complaint. It's clear that he felt he spoke the wrong things. What he spoke was either what we read in verses 4 and 5, David's prayer in this situation, or else maybe David doesn't want to repeat here the words that he spoke, and having spoken them, he prayed the prayer that appears in verses 4 and 5. So in other words, this prayer that we're about to study might be David's complaint about this situation, or it might be David's response in prayer to the fact that he did complain. Let's look at this prayer then. Verse 4, Lord, make me to know mine end, and the measure of my days what it is. Make me to know mine end, and the measure of my days, how long I'm going to live, and when the end will be of my life on earth. Because, well, there's various reasons David could have prayed that. Maybe he prayed that because he wanted to know how long he would see the wicked doing these evil acts and prospering in it. Or he could pray that to know, have a measure of how small and how weak he is. And that seems to be the purpose of this prayer here, because he says, Lord, make me to know mine end and the measure of my days what it is, that I may know how frail I am. David wanted to know his own weakness. He wanted a sense of the limits on his own understanding of things. He was seeing things only for the moment, for his lifetime. He was seeing wicked people prospering. But David was frail. He was weak. He was limited with what he saw. He couldn't see this situation as God sees it. He couldn't see the judgment of God against those wicked people. He only saw what was happening now, and what was happening now upset him. His prayer continues in verse 5. Behold, look, thou hast made my days as an handbreadth, and mine age is as nothing before thee. My days as an handbreadth. And handbreadth, the breadth of your hand. Breadth means the width. And not the span of your hand, that's the width of your hand with your fingers and thumbs sticking out as wide as you can stretch them. But no, the narrowness of your hand as you measure across it with your fingers closed. David is saying, you've made my days so short, such a short measure as the width of my hand. My age is as nothing before thee. You, the eternal God, from everlasting to everlasting you reign. From everlasting to everlasting. And I have, 70 years? 70 years? Or whatever? The longest I can possibly live is so short. I am weak. You are strong. You are bringing about your purposes. I don't see what you are doing in this world. I only see the prosperity of the wicked, and I speak to complain when I see how, for the length of his life, he prospers. Verily, truly, he concludes, every man at his best state is altogether vanity. Every man at his best state. The best any person is in health, in strength, in success, in wealth, is altogether vanity. The word we meet with so often in the book of Ecclesiastes, describing how weak people really are. My mind turns to that Bob Dylan song, Blowing in the Wind, and just think about the title of that song. The Hebrew word for vanity here means every man is just a breath. And breath describes our lives, doesn't it? We only live for as long as we breathe. Put your hand in front of your mouth. Feel how weak that breath is. Now blow. Blow hard. How little that is. Your breath compared to the wind on a stormy day. How weak you are. Blowing in the wind. Well, you can stand in the greatest storm, blowing with all your strength, and you won't make one little bit of difference to the wind. To the strength of the wind, to the power of the wind, to the direction of the wind. What we do in life, it's so weak, isn't it? But what God does, like the power of the wind, what God does by the power of his Holy Spirit is so strong, so powerful. And with those thoughts about David's own weakness and about the power of God, the everlasting God, the eternal God, David pauses with the word Selah. Selah probably means a musical pause, but it's the right break in this psalm, because in verse 6 he turns his attention. He's no longer thinking so much about the wicked people with their wealth. He's thinking more about God, the eternal God, the power of God, the strength of God. But he's still disturbed. Verse 6, surely every man walketh in a vain shew. Shew is the old-fashioned form of the word show. Every man is walking in a vain show. He's walking, it's describing the way he lives. He lives carrying out his life without purpose, achieving nothing, Surely they are disquieted in vain. Disquieted, disturbed. And yet their disturbance is for vain, for no proper reason. It's achieving nothing. He heapeth up riches, and knoweth not who shall gather them. In the King James Bible, the word riches is in italics, slanted type, to show us that it's not there in the Hebrew. It's been supplied by the translators to help us with the meaning. But this is interesting. Without that word, he heapeth up, and knoweth not who shall gather them. Yes, our life is a heaping up. We heap up riches, we heap up treasure, we pile up possessions as we acquire one thing and another, like a big heap, a big pile being built up. We don't know who's going to collect them again, who's going to gather these things, who's going to benefit from the things that we've stored during our life. Maybe we heap up money in a bank account. We don't know what that money will be spent for. We don't know where it will go. And after our death, we will have no control whatever over it. And now David, remember, he was the king of Israel, a wealthy king, a successful king by the world's standards. He gained greatly in wealth. He stored up these things. Yet Solomon, after him, the first part of his life, he lived well, and he built the temple of God in Jerusalem, and he built palaces for himself, and he turned away from God. And his son Rehoboam, an evil man, who destroyed the kingdom which had been established, so that it was split in two, and the majority of it was taken away from him. He heapeth up, and knoweth not who shall gather them. David thinks about this, and he turns to God. And now, Lord, what wait I for? My hope is in thee. David's hope was not in himself, and not in his riches, and not in what he could achieve in life. His only hope was in God, the eternal God, the all-powerful God. David couldn't place his hope in himself, but he could place his hope in God. Yet when David thought of God, David was aware of his own sins. His sin with Bathsheba, his sin against Uriah, his sin in numbering the people. And so he prayed to God for forgiveness. Deliver me from all my transgressions. Make me not the reproach of the foolish. The reproach, the insult of the foolish, the evil people. May it not be that evil people can insult me because of the wrong things that I've done. Deliver me, forgive me. I was dumb. I opened not my mouth because thou didst it. That's verse 9. David is silent once more. He's remembered his sin. He's remembered that sin has consequences. Yes, even when God has forgiven those evil deeds, there can still be consequences. The person who's gone to prison for his evil deeds may well remain in prison after he's become a Christian, after God has forgiven him his sins. He has to face the consequences of his actions unless God delivers him from that too. And David was very aware that his evil deeds had consequences. And he was also aware that God as a father was correcting him for his wrong things. And faced with that, David once again could not speak. God had done this. God had brought about these things in his life, these things that were to correct David and were to deal with his wrong deeds. And David could not now criticize God. He was tempted. He was tempted to complain about the evildoers in prosperity. But how can he complain about this when God has rightly carried out actions against David. But nevertheless, he prayed for mercy in that situation. Verse 10, remove thy stroke away from me. I am consumed by the blow of thine hand. The blow, the striking, the hitting. It's as if a father is hitting his child. That used to be a common way of correcting people. More and more they're making that illegal in England now. But in former ages, everyone understood that a father would hit his child as a punishment and to teach that child to do not to do wrong things. And that was how David knew punishment from his father. And so David turns to God. He says, take it away. I'm being consumed by it. It's too strong for me. I can't cope. And then he explains a little bit more in verse 11. When thou with rebukes dost correct man for iniquity. So correcting, like a father correcting his child, rebukes, telling off that child, as we've seen in the word picture in verse 10, hitting the child. When thou with rebukes dost correct man for iniquity, thou makest his beauty to consume away like a moth. Like a moth, like a moth which you crush between your fingers and it just turns to powder. Maybe that's the meaning. Or maybe the meaning is that it's like a beautiful garment that moths have attacked and eaten away, so that this fine cloth has just become rags and shredded away by the actions of little moths. David is saying, God, you're correcting me. I know you're working in me for a good purpose to make me right, but so much is being taken from me. I'm suffering so much in this. And then he adds, as he did at the end of verse 5, surely every man is vanity. My life is but a breath. I am so weak. Yes, God, you're doing what's good in my life, but still I am weak. I see only my suffering. I once again am failing to see your purposes and what you are doing in this situation. And with that thought, David pauses again with his word to indicate a musical pause, Selah. And then he continues with the last part of his psalm, verse 12. Hear my prayer, O Lord, and give ear unto my cry. Hold not thy peace at my tears. Let's pause there. Hear my prayer, that's straightforward. Give ear to my cry. Turn your ear to listen to me crying out. And God, if you don't hear my prayer, and if you don't give ear to my cry, if all of this does not turn you to attend to me and help me and to save me from this situation, then hold not thy peace at my tears. God, I'm going to cry before you. I'm going to cry actual tears because I'm pleading with you and I'm begging you to act in my life. You see all this suffering. You see all these troubles. I've tried to be silent. I've tried to be silent and failed, but I plead with you, O God, that you will not be silent. Hold not thy peace at my tears. Speak your word into my situation, Lord, my situation of suffering because of evil people, suffering because of my own sin, suffering even because you are correcting me. God, please work in my life and work powerfully. You see how weak I am. You see how little I'm entitled to. But God, I'm depending on you. My hope is not in me, but verse 7, my hope, God, is in you. So hold not your peace. Hear my prayer. Turn your ear to me and answer my prayer and rescue me even from these troubles. For I am a stranger with thee, and a sojourner, as all my fathers were. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob lived in the promised land, but they didn't own it. They had no rights there. They were strangers, people who'd come to the land without rights, or sojourners who had a temporary place in the land. Now God gave that land to Israel's people as a permanent possession, and David was living in the time when Israel's people were in possession of that land. But David himself did not have a permanent possession in this land. In the promised land, he was just a sojourner. He just was there temporarily because his life was short. God, I'm like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I'm only temporarily in this place, and I need to be permanently with you. I need to be in that place, that heavenly place, the new Jerusalem. God, as I cry before you, as I seek you, please work powerfully in my life, and in some way that I don't understand, rescue me from these troubles. Verse 13, O spare me, that I may recover strength before I go hence and be no more. O spare me, that I may recover strength. Literally, the words, O spare me here, are look away. The idea is that if God is looking at you and he's angry, then you plead with him, look away from me. Allow me to be free from your anger, that I may recover strength. Literally there, that I may smile, that I may know strength and comfort and peace in me, because you're no longer looking at me in this angry way. Turn away your anger from me, O God. Show your mercy instead, that during this short life on earth I might smile in the knowledge of your strength and your comfort, and the knowledge that you are doing good things. You are answering my prayer. My life here is so short. David finishes, before I go hence and be no more. Yes, a time is coming when I will go from this place, and I will be no more in Jerusalem, in Israel, in this land, on this earth. I will have no more place in this earth. He doesn't discuss where he's going. He only discusses leaving this earth, as before he's spoken only about the shortness of his life. But his hope is in God, that God will turn away his anger from him, that he will know that strength and comfort with which he can smile, that God will answer his prayer, that God will hear his cry, that God will not be silent in this situation. It's a difficult psalm because it's not a psalm which fully indicates how God will answer David. But this was the point David has reached, a point of hoping and depending upon God, a point where he believes that somehow, that he can't understand, God can set him free from these troubles. God can deliver him and rescue him. God can forgive him his sins. Verse 8, deliver me from all my transgressions. Even in this situation of suffering, David knows that he can put his hope in God. Please write to me. My email address, 333kjv@gmail.com. My name again is Keith Simons. I'd like to know where in the world you are, or if in America, in which of the states. The email address again, 333kjv@gmail.com. And now in conclusion, let me read you the whole of Psalm 39. To the chief musician, even to Jeduthun, a psalm of David. I said, I will take heed to my ways, that I sin not with my tongue. I will keep my mouth with the bridle while the wicked is before me. I was dumb with silence. I held my peace even from good, and my sorrow was stirred. My heart was hot within me. While I was musing, the fire burned. Then spake I with my tongue. Lord, make me to know mine end, and the measure of my days, what it is, that I may know how frail I am. Behold, thou hast made my days as an handbreadth, and mine ages as nothing before thee. Verily, every man at his best state is altogether vanity. Selah. Surely every man walketh in a vain show. Surely they are disquieted in vain. He heapeth up riches, and knoweth not who shall gather them. And now, Lord, what wait I for? My hope is in thee. Deliver me from all my transgressions. Make me not the reproach of the foolish. I was dumb. I opened not my mouth, because thou didst it. Remove thy stroke away from me. I am consumed by the blow of thine hand. When thou with rebukes dost correct man for iniquity, thou makest his beauty to consume away like a moth. Surely every man is vanity. Selah. Hear my prayer, O Lord, and give ear unto my cry. Hold not thy peace at my tears, for I am a stranger with thee, and a sojourner, as all my fathers were. O spare me, that I may recover strength, before I go hence, and be no more.